Hello and welcome to this book summary where we're looking at 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. So the 12 Rules for Life is a self-help book, and at its core are two key concepts. One, that you should take personal responsibility for your life and the life of those in your charge, basically your children. And two, that by living a good life and by being a good person, you create meaning and purpose in your life. So who is Jordan Peterson? Well, he's a Canadian clinical psychologist and a professor of psychology at the University of Toronto. But before we jump in and look at the 12 rules, a quick word of caution. Firstly, Peterson is a controversial character. He's received criticism for his comments concerning free speech and political correctness. Secondly, although the 12 rules for life isn't religious, Peterson does refer to the Bible throughout the book. So, if you're willing to suspend judgment and keep an open mind, then let's jump in and look at each of the 12 rules for life. So the first rule is stand up straight with your shoulders back. Now, our subconscious brain is constantly scanning our environment to figure out where we fit in the hierarchy of society. If we see people responding positively to us and looking to us for direction, then serotonin is released to our brains and we feel good. We elevate how we see ourselves. Conversely, if we see people responding negatively to us or treating us as subordinate, less serotonin is released to our brains and we lower how we see ourselves in the world. So what does this mean? So in terms of action steps, because everyone is looking at everyone else to assess their place in the world, you can use this to your advantage. To do this, all you have to do is stand up straight with your shoulders back, fix your posture, act confident, and others will assume that you are confident. They'll start to treat you better, and that magical serotonin will be released to your brain, making you feel better as well. And that in turn will make you more likely to want to stand up straight and feel confident. And what you'll have done is you'll have created a virtuous cycle. Now, you can think of this first rule as being a subset of fake it till you make it. Only in this case, it's act confident until others see you as confident, and eventually you'll see yourself as confident too. Rule 2 is treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. Many people are kinder to their pets than they are to themselves, and one reason for this is that you are your own worst critic. Each of us is patently aware of our own flaws and the mistakes we make because of them. And this leads almost all of us to mentally berate ourselves for our shortcomings. And that in turn can lead us to sabotage ourselves daily. So perhaps you don't take care of your health, or perhaps you keep making a promise to yourself that you never actually keep. So we need to change our thinking from believing that we are not worth helping to believing that we have much we can give and therefore plenty to live for. So action steps for rule 2, start being kind to yourself. And to do this, begin by writing down your values and your principles and then try and stick to them. Reward yourself when you do stick to them. And also whenever you do something that you don't want to do, that you find difficult. And remember that if you do achieve your reward, make sure that you actually give yourself the reward. Many people don't do this. And finally, if you fail at something, don't beat yourself up. Be kind and try to do better next time. Rule 3, make friends with people who want the best for you. Most of us don't give much thought to how we form friendships. Usually friendships are formed around something you enjoy doing. So maybe you enjoyed studying together, or maybe you enjoyed partying together. You may be familiar with the phrase, you are the average of the 5 people you hang around with. Now, what does that phrase say about you? Now, good friends will pull you up. They won't tolerate negativity or bad behavior, whereas bad friends will pull you down and sometimes even facilitate or encourage bad behavior. Now, often they do that to make themselves feel better about themselves, but ultimately, if you want to improve yourself, you may need to improve your friends. So action steps. To make friends with people who want the best for you, then start by auditing your 10 closest friends. Ask which friends are pushing you to be better and which are pulling you down. And if you do have some friends pulling you down, ask yourself, if they want to be helped, because you can't help people who don't want help. So if you do have friends like this, maybe you should walk away. Rule 4. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. Now, we've already discussed how we compare ourselves to those around us all of the time, and how, based on what we see, our serotonin levels increase or decrease. More serotonin can make us feel confident and in control, whereas less obviously makes us feel less confident and more out of control. Now, with the advent of the internet, we are connected to billions of people across the globe for the first time. And if you compare yourself to those you see online, it's not going to take very long for your brain to realize your ineptitude. So for example, suppose you think you're a good husband. Well, you've probably got multiple friends on Facebook who appear to be even better husbands. Maybe you think you're a good singer. There are hundreds of better singers on YouTube. Comparing yourself to these singers will make you look and feel incompetent. So when you encounter people everywhere that seem better than you, you're more likely to give up and start to feel like there's no point in even trying. So the action steps here are to realize that there's always going to be someone who's doing better than you. So there's just no point comparing yourself to others. In other words, stop comparing yourself to who someone else is today. Instead, start comparing yourself to who you were yesterday. Look at how you behaved, worked, looked after yourself, and engaged with others. And then try to find one area that you can improve just a little today. Now, over the long term, that can create massive change in your life. And by doing this every day, you'll forget to compare yourself to others, as you'll be too busy comparing yourself to who you were yesterday. Rule 5. Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. Rule 5 is about how to parent. Children constantly test the boundaries of behavior in order to learn the rules of the world. It is your job as a parent to teach your child what is acceptable and what isn't. If you don't set boundaries, then your children will learn the wrong boundaries of behavior. They won't receive the feedback that they need. They will grow up to be adults who are poorly adjusted to the norms of society, and that's going to impact their happiness in adult life. If you don't teach your children the rules, then society will punish them for you when they reach adulthood. Now, action steps. Be clear with your children about the rules and don't arbitrarily change the rules as your whims or moods dictate. That will confuse your children. Now, one thing to note here is that Peterson gets a little controversial in advocating force if necessary, and also highlighting that two-parent families are better for raising kids than single-parent families. Rule 6. Put your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. It is easy to be a critic, to sit at home on your couch pointing out flaws in others, their work and their behavior. Sometimes this extends to blaming others for the situation in life in which we find ourselves. It's a really easy excuse to blame others, as it takes the responsibility away from us. So tend to your own wrongs before you point fingers at others. Action steps. Do you know of something you're doing that is wrong? Maybe you're doing something that is bad for your health or bad for your wealth. If you do know of something, then stop doing it today. Don't waste time questioning what you're doing or trying to get to the root cause of it. Simply try to stop today if you know it's wrong. Rule 7. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Now, there may be no inherent meaning for your existence or for mine. And in the face of that potential reality, should you seek out pleasure today because there's no real point to anything? Should you avoid hard things today, even though in the long run, you know they might make your life better? Well, the answer is no, because although there may be no inherent meaning in your existence, you can make your own meaning. Doing good and delaying gratification can provide your life with meaning. It can make you happier. Action steps. Pay attention to the world around you. Ask how you can make the world a little better today. Ask what you should be doing today to make your life better in the future. And think big. How can you make the world a much better place? What kind of person would you need to become in order to achieve this? And one way to look at this is by saying, the bigger the change you wish to make, the bigger the sacrifice that you might need to make. But that big sacrifice creates more meaning and gives you a more meaningful life. Rule 8. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. There are many different types of lies. We might lie to get what we want. We might lie to avoid hurting others. We may lie by omitting information, or we may even lie to ourselves. So we lie in the short term to avoid pain. And this may actually work in the short term, but it weakens our character because we're not acting in accordance with our values. And things get even worse when we try and cover up previous lies. Now, people with weak characters tend to get run over when adversity strikes, and adversity comes to all of us at some point. Now, Peterson believes that any improvements you make today to who you were yesterday, which is rule 4, if you remember, will be capped and limited by how truthful you are today. So, action steps. Peterson believes that dishonesty will always come back to bite you. So because of this, you should always tell the truth, or at least don't lie. Now ask yourself what hard truth you are avoiding, what uncomfortable conversation you need to have, both with yourself and with others. Rule 9. Assume the person you are listening to might know something you don't. You can't really learn anything by talking, but you can learn a lot by listening. So having someone listen to you and being understood is a basic human need. So by listening to someone, you are giving them a gift. And that's because you're helping them to fulfill their basic human need to be understood. Now, in addition to that, truly listening to another person also helps to build trust with that person. Action steps. Always start your interactions from the position that the person you were talking to has reached a thoughtful and considered position based on their life experiences. Summarize their core message and play it back to them to ensure they have understood what you have understood what they are telling you. This will not only clarify your thinking, but theirs as well. Rule 10. Be precise with your speech. Precision can help remove anxiety, and anxiety can occur when we face the unknown. So perhaps you have a persistent pain in your body, but what could it be? Well, it could be nothing, or it could be terminal, or it could be somewhere between those two extremes. The possibilities cause our brains to race, and so our anxiety increases. But if you visited a doctor to find out what was wrong, your anxiety would reduce, no matter how serious what you actually had was, and that's because an unknown would become known. So action steps. If something is bothering you, get precise. Write down what exactly is bothering you. What do you want, and why do you want it? Rule 11. We are hardwired as humans to enjoy an element of risk. If we take a small risk and succeed, we acquire just a little bit more competence and skill. This competence will serve us well later. It is competence or lack of competence that creates our place in society. Now, the only way for children to develop into functioning adults is to be exposed to some danger. While skateboarding might seem like a dangerous activity, it is that danger that children are seeking. It is helping them to build competence. Action steps. Leave your kids alone when they do things with some element of danger. They need to grow up. And the final rule is Rule 12. Pet a cat when you encounter one on the street. So life is tough. Sometimes bad things do happen to good people. You can hate yourself and you can hate the world because of this, or you can just accept that suffering is a part of life. By paying attention to little things, you can brighten up any bad day, but you have to be looking out for them to see them. Now, the cat in this rule is really a metaphor for noticing the little things in life. So, action steps. Try and notice the little things and take pleasure in them. Maybe you could pet a cat, buy a coffee, or take a new route home from work. So if you've made it this far, you'll know that Peterson's 12 Rules for Life covers a vast array of topics. Now, most of the rules are explained in the book by means of anecdotes. So if you'd like to understand the rules better, I'd recommend you purchase a copy of the book for yourself. Now, personally, while I enjoyed the 12 Rules for Life and found it thought-provoking, I did find it quite a hard read. And I think this was because when reading the book, I often felt like what I was reading wasn't connected to the rule I was supposedly reading about. Other times, I simply felt like I didn't agree with what Peterson was saying. So on balance, I'm going to give this book a solid 7 out of 10. So that's it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.